Welcome to the special WEFTEC live interview. I'm Dusti Lowndes, the Director of Emergency Management for DC Water and the Chair of the WEF Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Community. I'm joined today by Nitin Natarajan, Deputy Director of the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency, CISA. He's actually scheduled to attend WEFTEC 2023 this week, which is a special opportunity because October is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Welcome, Deputy Director Natarajan.
Great to see you and great to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us today. We just wanted to talk to you just a little bit and kind of get your perspective and your initiatives within CISA for the water and wastewater sector. How is CISA thinking about water security environment when it comes to water utilities?
So CISA looks at the water sector along with a few other sectors that we identified in FY23 as what we call target-rich, resource-poor entities, right? These are entities that are very regionally distributed. We know that there's over 150,000 water utilities in the country, which most people don't realize. I think the scope and scale of the challenge, and very large water utilities in urban areas and very small rural water utilities, and the challenges that go along with that. And so we see these are entities that we're seeing adversaries target because they see them as easy victims. But at the same time, we know that there are organizations that are challenged in what to implement and how to implement cybersecurity practices. And there's challenges in both large and small systems. It's not that it's easier in one or the other. So CISA wanted to focus in 23 on 4 sectors: water and wastewater utilities, K through 12 schools, healthcare and public health, and election security. And these efforts are going to continue into FY24, kicking off with Cybersecurity Awareness Month here in October.
Yes, a great opportunity. So the risks, what kind of risks does the water and wastewater sector face when it comes to cybersecurity?
I think what we've seen is both a change in the adversarial landscape and the victim landscape. I think in the past, when we've looked at adversaries, we've traditionally thought about our adversaries being nation states, right? We think about Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and what are they going to do? But what we now know is, especially in ransomware, that the adversaries are not just nation states, but there's adversaries of cyber terrorists and cyber criminal organizations. We also know that it's easy to become a cyber terrorist these days, right? You used to have infrastructure, recruit people, and take on a massive undertaking. Now with things like ransomware as a service, if you have an enemy and you have Bitcoin, you can hire people to conduct attacks on your behalf. So we've seen this transition in the adversarial landscape. We've also seen the victim landscape. I think in the past, people have always had this perception that I'm not a large urban area. I'm not a large federal agency. I'm not a large bank or a large institution. So I can't possibly be a victim. Nobody is looking at me. Nobody knows my town even exists on the map, right? How can I potentially be a victim? But what we're seeing is across the nation, organizations and utilities and communities, large and small, rural and urban, being impacted by ransomware and other attacks. So everybody is a potential victim. There's no more this obscurity or feeling that I'm not potentially a victim. And I think water utilities are a prime example of that we're seeing these types of attacks, again, in rural and urban America. So that change in both the adversaries and the victim landscape is really what has us the most concerned, and why we really want to work with the water sector to continue to do more and to build resilience against these cyber attacks.
Well, and that's a good lead in. What kind of outcomes is CISA hoping to have with the engagements with water utilities?
At the end of the day, we know we can't prevent every cyber attack from happening. So I think what we really want to focus on is how do we raise resilience? How do we increase resilience? How do we ensure that utilities know what resources and tools are available to them to engage? We know that a lot, especially smaller utilities, will easily find this intimidating. And we see this across other sectors as well. The water sector, unfortunately, is not unique in that situation. But there are tools and resources out there that can help, from CISA, from EPA, from the private sector and others, to help build some of that resilience. So as we look at outcomes and how do we really measure progress, it's a combination of raising that awareness, and not just amongst the CISO community for organizations that have CISOs, but frankly with CEOs, boards of directors, with public utilities commissions and other entities, to understand the criticality of protection from cyber attacks, as well as things like enrollment in a lot of our free services that organizations can enroll into to help, again, raise their resilience by using some of these shared services. So if we can raise that bar of resilience, if we can get people to understand the threat, if we can get people to enroll in our tools, we think that's going to make it harder for the adversaries, more expensive for the adversaries to conduct these attacks, and thereby protecting our nation's infrastructure.
Is there things from other sectors that the water utilities can learn about cybersecurity?
Definitely. I think one of the things we're really pushing for is just engaging, right? And looking at this not from a CISO perspective. And I think all too often, it's challenging in a lot of organizations I've worked in, where we just want to say, I don't get all of that IT stuff, but I have a CIO or I have a CISO and they're handling it for me. It's fine. I don't have to worry about it. It's okay. And I love that reaction. And really taking that discussion to say, we need to talk about this as enterprise risk. As we often talk about how do we protect ourselves from natural disasters? How do we protect against flooding, against an electrical outage? How are our utilities going to keep running in these situations? We also need to have that discussion at the enterprise level of how do we deal with a cybersecurity incident that happens? What impact does that have on our customers? What impact does that have on our brand and our reputation? What's that impact does that have on our recovery? So I think really elevating those discussions, and we're seeing pockets of that across other sectors where it's helpful, and being able to learn from other sectors and how they've implemented some of the tools and resources, and really strengthening that dialogue, we think is going to be helpful.
That's cool. And what type of resources do you share with the public and your partners to better secure the water utilities?
So we have a lot of free services that are available. So on the physical security side, we do a lot of physical security assessments, helping looking there because we do know that cyber physical nexus is getting bigger and bigger. I joke we now connect our refrigerators to the internet. Something we never did 15 years ago. I don't know what that fridge does that mine doesn't, but people have
and the
them,
washing machine. Yeah,
it's and the washing machine and everything. But we have support on the physical security side. On the cybersecurity side, we have free vulnerability scanning that we provide, which is external scanning. So this doesn't go into an organization's network. This is externally facing, where we're able to scan against known exploited vulnerabilities that we know threat actors are using, to look against known vulnerabilities, and to be able to give back to the organization free of charge every week a written report that says, here's things that we're seeing that you may need to be aware of, along with outlining steps that organizations can take to help address what we've seen. So we have tools and resources such as that. We do tabletop exercises, to help organizations and communities prepare and respond to a cyber incident. We have organizations for public utilities on transitioning to the .gov. It's what we call the top level domain, that .gov at the end of web URLs. That by doing that alone brings in with it a lot of inherent protections that we provide for that. We took that over a couple of years ago from another federal agency, and we eliminated the fees associated with it, so it's available free of charge to municipalities that want to use it, and that too comes with a suite of materials. So we really wanted to make sure that we have resources for large organizations that can take advanced threat indicators and advanced information and do something with it, but also make sure we have resources for small businesses and small organizations, frankly, where the CIO is also the CISO and may also be the CFO, and making sure that we have those resources available to them to help organizations large and small, urban and rural across the nation.
You mentioned the scanning services. How could a utility hear more about the free sources? Where should they go?
So it's really easy. CISA.gov/water is the website, and we try to really make it a one-stop shop where folks can access a lot of our available resources, but along with the great resources that groups like the EPA and others have created as well. The EPA is the Sector Risk Management Agency, and they have the lead for water and wastewater. We work very closely with them, and we want to make sure that we are bringing the capabilities and experience of the federal government at large to bear and support of you and your colleagues.
Yeah, a lot of exciting information and needed support. So what does CISA and the water, what's next for us with CISA and the water sector?
So we want to really continue to reach into communities across the nation. I think, one of the challenges, and we don't want this to be a DC-based issue, and I know Dusty, you're DC based as well, but I think we all know not everybody wants to hear everything out of DC, right? So
but I'm a native Montanan, so it's okay.
How do we make sure
there too?
that we're reaching out to communities across the nation? And so we have people in every state across the country. We have protected security advisors, cybersecurity advisors, emergency communications coordinators. We have them in territories as well. We have them in Montana. And so these are local individuals that are living in your communities of your members throughout the nation that have the opportunity to really engage locally on physical and cybersecurity resources that frankly have the ability to tailor the resources to make the right resources for the right organization. Because frankly, bringing in resources that you're not ready to receive or catch is not helpful either. So really making those connections and engaging our local water utilities with their CISA regional teams is something we were driving heavily on this year and going into next year. And that's in collaboration with our EPA regional teams as well. We really want this to be a joint effort, with the EPA.
I've experienced amazing support through the PSAs, those physical security advisors, both in Montana and DC. So great resource. Thank you so much.
I keep getting asked, how do we clone more of them? That's the one ask I routinely get.
Well, thank you so much, Deputy Director Natarajan. We absolutely appreciate your time today and look forward to seeing you hopefully at WEFTEC next week. And thank you all for joining us and just joining the WEFTEC live interview.
Thanks, Dusty.